Hello, I'm Miss Ginsburg with KnowAtom, and today we're going to be reading Earth in Motion. This is a student reader in Unit 1. Exploring Space. Curiosity. When Clara Ma was 12 years old, she heard about a competition. This competition was to name a vehicle that would travel to the planet Mars. Mars is Earth's next door neighbor in space. Scientists want to travel to Mars to explore it. Clara has always been fascinated by space. This includes the stars, the planets, and the universe. When she was little, her grandmother pointed out patterns in the stars. As she grew older, Clara continued to love space. She loved how mysterious and vast it was. No matter how much has been learned about it, there is always more to discover. As soon as Clara heard about the competition, she knew she would name the vehicle Curiosity. Curiosity is the passion that drives us through our everyday lives. We have become explorers and scientists with our need to ask questions and to wonder. Clara wrote in an essay she entered in the competition. She won, and in 2012, the vehicle Curiosity landed on Mars' surface. Who are scientists? Asking questions is something that all scientists do. This is because science is the search for explanations about the natural world. Scientists look for the causes of what they observe in the world around us. They use evidence to form conclusions that support those explanations. All knowledge learned from experiments is part of science. Science is part of a larger cycle that includes engineering, math, and technology. This cycle is called the STEM cycle. Engineers apply scientific knowledge to create new technologies that solve problems. Math is a tool that both scientists and engineers use to capture results and communicate those results to others. Science, technology, engineering, and math are connected in the STEM cycle. Following a scientific process. Scientists use a scientific process to guide them as they try to answer questions about the world around them. This process helps scientists go from a question to a data-based conclusion. Scientists always begin with a question. Curiosity was on Mars to answer one big question. Did life ever exist on Mars? In order to answer that question, scientists need to answer many smaller questions. Scientists conduct many experiments every year. Every year, the amount of scientific knowledge grows. Scientists use this existing knowledge to research their question. After scientists have researched their question, they form a hypothesis. A hypothesis is a statement that can be proved true or false. An example of a hypothesis is, life existed on Mars in the past. Another hypothesis is, life never existed on Mars. Scientists then write a summary of the experiment they will conduct to test their hypothesis. An experiment is a procedure designed to test whether a hypothesis is true, false, or inconclusive. They will also list materials needed and the procedure they will follow. A procedure is like a step-by-step recipe for the experiment. A good procedure will let somebody else repeat the experiment exactly. Scientists also draw a scientific diagram. They do this so anyone can use the same materials and follow the same steps to get similar results. They also want to create a record of their thinking. Scientists use curiosity to conduct experiments. These experiments try to prove or disprove the hypothesis that life existed on Mars in the past. Here's the Curiosity rover. As Curiosity conducts experiments, it is gathering data. Data are numbers and observations gathered from an experiment. Curiosity has different tools for gathering data. It has instruments to look at the rocks on Mars. It has drills that can collect powdered rock. It also has 17 cameras and can record video. Scientists use experiments to look for patterns in data. A pattern is something that happens in a regular and repeated way. A pattern sometimes shows a cause and effect relationship, where one event or thing is the result of the other. After data has been collected, scientists form a conclusion. The conclusion uses data from the experiment to explain why the hypothesis is true, false, or inconclusive. So far, scientists have not found evidence to conclude that life has ever existed on Mars. However, they are continuing to search. Matter in space. Scientists have learned that the planets, stars, and other objects in space share some characteristics. For example, they are all matter. Matter is everything that has mass and takes up space. The sun and moon are matter. Even the air around you is a collection of different kinds of matter. Matter is made up of tiny parts that are too small to be seen. These parts are called atoms. Many millions of atoms make up even a single grain of sand. Atoms can join together in different ways. The different ways that atoms join together make all of the matter in the universe. Two or more atoms joined together are called molecules. All matter is made up of many parts called atoms that are too small to be seen. Here's a carbon atom, oxygen and nitrogen atoms, hydrogen atoms. An element is a substance entirely made up of one kind of atom. Helium gas is an element. Hydrogen is another element. Hydrogen and helium are the main elements that make up stars. There are 118 different kinds of elements. Each element has its own properties. Scientists work with elements and not atoms. Nobody has ever seen an atom. They are so tiny and fast that no camera has been able to take a good picture. Think about a grapefruit. If each atom in the grapefruit were the size of a blueberry, the grapefruit would have to be the size of Earth. There are so many atoms in just one grapefruit that they are impossible to count. Imagine having to fill up the entire planet with blueberries. That's about how many atoms are in one grapefruit. Atoms themselves are made up of smaller particles. There are 3 kinds of particles. These particles are called protons, neutrons, and electrons. They are much smaller than the atom itself. Because atoms are so tiny, scientists use scale to better understand the size of an atom, its smaller parts, and how it relates to everyday substances. Scale is the size, extent, or importance of something relative to something else. The protons and neutrons group together in the atom's core. The core is called the nucleus. If an atom was the size of a blueberry and you opened the blueberry up, the nucleus would be too small to see. If you were to make the blueberry the size of a football field, you would just be able to see the nucleus. It would be the size of a small marble. The nucleus holds all of the atom's protons and neutrons. The nucleus is in the center of the atom. It is very tiny compared to the size of the atom. Structure of an atom. Most of the atom is filled with empty space. There are huge amounts of space between each of the electrons and between the electrons and the nucleus. The electrons are much smaller than the protons and the neutrons. They are in constant motion around the nucleus. Electrons travel around the nucleus like planets orbiting the sun. To orbit means to travel in a circle around an object. They move because electrons are attracted to protons. Electrons are attracted to protons because protons have a positive charge. Electrons have a negative charge. This can be understood by remembering that opposites attract. The positive charge of the proton attracts the negative charge of the electrons. Neutrons have a neutral charge. They pair with protons in the nucleus. Electrons orbit at different distances called shells. Electrons like to stay close to the nucleus. However, each shell can only hold a certain number of electrons. The farther a shell is from the nucleus, the more electrons it can hold. The shell closest to the nucleus holds 2 electrons. This shell is called K. The second shell holds 8 more. This shell is called L. The third shell holds 18 electrons. This shell is called M. Smaller atoms have fewer protons, neutrons, and electrons. For example, neon is a small atom that has 2 shells with 10 electrons. Radon is a large atom that has 6 shells with 86 electrons. An atom's atomic number is the number of protons it has. Searching for liquid water. Matter has different properties. A property is an observable or measurable characteristic of matter. A substance's properties are caused by the number and kind of atoms that make it up. For example, water is a molecule. It is made up of 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. Water's properties happen because of how the hydrogen and oxygen atoms join together. Water can be found as a solid, liquid, and gas. These are called its states of matter. One of Curiosity's tasks is to look for liquid water on Mars. Scientists know that solid water, or ice, is present on Mars. Now they want to see if liquid water has ever formed. Scientists are searching for liquid water because it is necessary for almost every known living thing. Without water, there would be no life on Earth. States of matter. Earth is unique. Unlike on Mars, water molecules are found almost everywhere on Earth, in all 3 states. Water molecules make up the ice found in glaciers. They make up the liquid water in oceans. Water molecules also make up the water vapor gas that mixes with air. Ice is water's solid state. A solid has its own shape until something changes it by force. Solids, such as ice, hold their shape because the atoms that make them up are packed tightly together. They do not have enough energy to move past one another. Liquid water has no shape of its own. It takes the shape of its container. This is because the atoms in a liquid are close together but can slide past one another. This is why liquid flows. Water vapor is water's gas state. A gas takes the shape of whatever it is in. It will spread out to fill all of the spaces it is in, no matter how big the space is. This is because the atoms in gases are far apart and move with a lot of energy. So here, it says ice, liquid, water, and water vapor are all made up of water molecules. And here we're seeing that the motion of atoms in a substance is different for solid, liquids, and gases. Changing states. Water isn't the only molecule that can be a solid, liquid, or gas. Every atom and molecule can be turned into a solid, liquid, or gas when the right amount of heat is added or taken away. Matter changes state because of the amount of heat present. Heat causes the motion of atoms to change. When you add enough heat to a solid, it will become a liquid. When you add enough heat to a liquid, it will become a gas. If you take away enough heat from gas, it will become a liquid. If you take enough heat away from liquid, it will become a solid. Moving in space, wanderers. Every night, Mars appears to move across the sky. It appears as a red dot that moves from west to east. It moves because Mars is a planet. The word planet comes from a Greek word that means wanderer. Planets are made up of combinations of the same elements that make up matter on Earth. Scientists today define a planet as a body that orbits the sun, is massive enough for its own gravity to make it round, and has cleared out smaller objects around its orbit. There are 8 known planets in our solar system. A solar system is a collection of planets and other objects that orbit a star. Scientists use models to study the solar system in the same way that they use models to study atoms. They do this to see how the different parts of the solar system work together. Atoms make up all matter in the solar system. Planets in our solar system. The 8 planets are divided into 2 groups. Each group shares certain properties. The 4 planets closest to the Sun are called terrestrial planets. They are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. These 4 planets are solid balls of rock. Earth is the only planet known to support life. The 4 planets farthest from the Sun are called gas giants. They are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. These planets are mostly gases. The gas giants are also orbited by colorful rings made of rock, dust, and ice. They have many moons. Properties of planets. Scientists study the properties of the different planets in our solar system. They've learned that each planet has unique properties. Color is a property of matter. The planets are all different colors. Their color often comes from the elements that make up their atmosphere. For example, Saturn is yellow. Its atmosphere is made of hydrogen and helium. Uranus and Neptune are blue. They both have traces of methane gas in their atmosphere. Another property of matter is mass. Mass is a measure of the amount of matter that makes up an object. The gas giants are much more massive than the terrestrial planets. The Sun is more massive than any of the planets. More than 1 million Earths could fit inside the Sun. Look at how much bigger the 4 gas giants are than the 4 terrestrial planets. What is gravity? Everything that has mass also has gravity. Gravity is a force of attraction between all matter. Gravity is what keeps you on Earth. It is also what holds the solar system together. Gravity is a result of an object's mass. All matter has gravity, even the matter that makes up people. The reason a person doesn't noticeably attract nearby objects is because more massive objects have more gravity. Earth's gravity pulls on all objects on or near Earth's surface because Earth is so massive. The gravitational force exerted on an object by a planet or moon is called weight. It is measured by newtons. Here on Earth, weight is calculated by multiplying the object's mass by the force of Earth's gravity. Non-scientists often think that an object's weight is the same as its mass. The two are related because an object's weight depends on its mass. However, weight also depends on the force of gravity. The sun's gravity. You experience Earth's gravity because you are so close to Earth. The force of gravity becomes weaker as the distance between 2 objects increases. Even though the sun is much more massive than Earth, it is also much farther away. This is why Earth's gravity holds you on Earth. Earth's gravity also pulls the moon into orbit around it. More massive planets have more moons because their gravities are more stronger than Earth's, or even stronger than Earth's. Earth itself is held in place by the sun's gravity. The sun's gravity is so strong that it reaches beyond the 8 planets, pulling every planet toward it. Our sun is a star. There are billions of stars in the universe. Some stars are just as massive as our sun. Other stars are even more massive. However, these stars are very far away from our solar system. This is why we don't feel their gravity. Our sun seems so large and bright to us because it is so much closer to Earth than any other star. The sun is the most massive object in our solar system. Gravity and movement. The sun's gravity pulls the planets into orbit around it. The closer a planet is to the sun, the stronger the sun's gravitational pull is. This causes the closer planets to travel more quickly around the sun. Scientists can predict where the planets will travel because their motion has a predictable pattern. As the planets move, they follow a regular, repeating path. Because of this, scientists can predict how each planet will move in the future. Planets that are closer to the sun also have less distance to travel around the sun. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. It takes the least amount of time to travel once around the sun, just 88 Earth days. Earth is the third planet from the sun. It takes Earth 365 days, 5 hours, and 48 minutes, or 1 year. In contrast, Neptune is the farthest planet from the sun. It takes Neptune 165 Earth years to complete its journey around the sun one time. Visiting space, overcoming gravity. Scientists sent Curiosity to Mars on a rocket in November 2011. The rocket launched from Cape Canaveral in Florida. More than 13,000 people watched it take off. As scientists counted down, there was a loud noise. A trail of fiery gas seemed to push the rocket upward into the sky. When a rocket takes off, an engine pushes hot gas down towards the ground. In reaction, the rocket moves up through the atmosphere. The huge upward force is important. There has to be enough force to overcome the pull of Earth's gravity. A force is a push or pull that acts on an object, changing its speed, direction, or shape. Balanced and unbalanced forces. Forces are all around us. There are forces acting on you right now, even if you can't feel them. Gravity is a force because it is pulling down on you. Forces always come in pairs. For example, when you stand on the ground, gravity pulls you down towards the center of Earth. In reaction, the ground has its own force that pushes back up. This keeps you from sinking into the ground. The same thing happens when you lean against a wall. You apply a force to the wall. The wall applies the same amount of force in return. In this case, the forces are balanced. Forces can also be unbalanced. If the wall is not strong enough, the force of you leaning against the wall will cause the wall to collapse. This is because you applied a greater force to the wall than the wall returned. Here, these two children each apply a force to the wall when they lean against it. In return, the wall applies the same amount of force. Leaving Earth. All motion is caused by unbalanced forces. All events, including motion, have a cause. When all of the forces acting on an object are balanced, the effect is that the object will not change its motion. If you want to move, there has to be an unbalanced force acting on you to cause the motion. Picture a swing. If you sit on the swing, you won't move. However, if someone pushes you, you will start to move. That person provided a large enough force to cause you to move. Rockets also need an unbalanced force to launch into space. They use engines that force hot gas downwards. The force of the hot gas causes the rocket to move upward. If the upward force is strong enough to overcome gravity pulling down, the rocket will launch off the ground. Wow, I learned a lot reading Earth in Motion, and I had fun too. I hope that you learned a lot and that you had fun also. I'll see you tomorrow with another book. Bye.